No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay, so Himiko Toga's confession to Deku in My Hero Academia. Now, we're in the final war. We are in the finale of My Hero Academia, as again proclaimed at the end of last year by the author Horikoshi. This is basically the grand finale, and something that I definitely want to say right now as it stands where we're at in the war. Still early, we're, a couple months out. I feel like as it stands right now, this war almost feels like it's been structured and put together to be almost a more shonen version of the last war. Because the war where, I always reference Shigaraki standing on top of Endeavor with his arm in the air. That war, it was very, very serious. We didn't have, for the most part, the standard shonen jump elements, and maybe that's what made us love it so much more and made us appreciate it so much more and made us look at it as like, yo, this is the Marineford of One Piece, because it stayed true to what Horikoshi wanted to do. It was darker, it was grittier. During that run, every week I was saying, yo, My Hero Academia is my favorite manga. To make me say these words and to take that spot for me is very powerful and not easy to do, but with the last two chapters, we're dealing with relationship stuff, in particular with Deku being embarrassed, getting confessed to. There's layers to it, and y'all already know, in case you don't know, that I'm a big fan of Himiko Toga from My Hero Academia. But something absolutely needs to be said about what went down in terms of her wanting him to be her boyfriend and going even further. And we'll talk about that in a second. But in case you don't know, it would benefit you immensely if you would hit that button, subscribe, and hit the bell for ForneverWorld news Monday through Fridays. And we do the discussions of the chapters of My Hero Academia, Black Clover, One Piece, you name it. We're talking about it over here. So definitely hit those buttons and make sure you get notified when we drop episodes. Appreciate you. But going back to the topic at hand in terms of the confession at the end of last chapter, I initially thought like, okay, this is the grand finale, right? So I'm going under the assumption that Toga has 100% her solidified resolve. She said it during that scene where Dabi burnt down her house several chapters ago now, that pretty much this is what she's sticking with, this is where she's rolling with. But after confessing to Deku and essentially going into the layers of it, of how she wanted to become Deku, and Deku broke it down like, yo, dog, I love All Might. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I'm a huge All Might fan. That don't mean I want to become him. I just appreciate him and love him from a distance. So this is all going on, and My Hero Academia supposedly is going to be coming to a close at the end of this year, and it's supposed to be Toga's final resolve of the entire series. And once that rejection comes in, it's like her resolve really wasn't solidified. It kind of makes me feel a little bit like, damn, I guess really what Horikoshi is setting up for when it comes to Toga is not that she's going to be able to come to the answers with these conclusions. It's almost as if it's giving it in a weird way that they need that final clash of hands for who's going to be Deku's girlfriend. Uraraka versus Toga. Who would have thought a Jello wrestling match between two shorties is going to be the end of My Hero? Nah. It seems like Toga, she's too out there, culturally unaware and misinformed, and dug into this misunderstanding about life and the way she looks at life because of her issues. She doesn't want to conform is what makes it problematic. There's so many more deeper layers to it. We've talked about this in the past, that the League of Villains, especially people like Toga, are victims of society. Had her parents just given her the direction and the guidance of, yo, what you like doing, drinking the blood, we can find either a cure for that, or we could find a workaround and teach her how love is done. Maybe if her parents would have sat her down instead of being horrified, like my daughter came to me, absolutely, I'm gonna be horrified if she is like Toga, but I'm not going to quit on my child. At the end of the day, her parents quit on her. I think it's even referenced again. We get a little panel or two in this chapter. She was called a monster. Her family turned their backs on her and ultimately didn't give her the guidance that she needs. Now she's at a point where, oh, I'm going to confess to a boy, and then I'm going to tell him, yo, I want to become you. And then when I don't get the response that I'm looking for, it's going to go left, and now I got to hurt your girlfriend, dog. Now, okay, you don't want to leave her for me. Now I got to hurt her. Also, something that I want to note before we carry on is that the My Hero Academia chapters are getting shorter and shorter. We went from the days of sometimes you get in 20 plus pages, right? The 19 pagers, you get an 18 pager. It usually stood around that point. Somewhere in last year, it started averaging 15 pages a chapter, and now this chapter was only 13. Maybe it's one of those double issues, and that's how they do it, whatever. But 13 pages sounds like, yo, Horikoshi really wants to end this, and he's just throwing them 13 pages like, we'll get to the big plot points when we get to them, but let's solve these little 13 pager ones real quick. Maybe he's having issues with production. Maybe he just really wanted to step his art game up and it's holding back his writing. I don't know, but yeah. Honestly, it just brings me back to the point of this war that is the final war. We're supposed to be seeing All for One. We're supposed to be figuring out the battle against Shigaraki and whatnot. And we're talking about Deku's romance life on the battlefield. Even Sue references it like, yo, dog, this is not the place for romance and shit like that. Yo, we're in war right now. We got all the #1 villains and #1 heroes. We just went from one of the most epic battles, and I know there was a lot of hate for it because of the logic and the power scaling, but we went from one of the most epic, serious, deadly, death happened battles with Star and Stripe. It feels like two different stories from two totally different aspects. Now, granted, because we're in the final stretch of the series and Horikoshi has to figure these things out and iron these things out, you know, he gotta tie all the loose ends and whatnot. He has to put elements like this in settings like this because how much time we're gonna have, you know what I'm saying? So everything is going to be more than likely wrapped up during this, and then maybe like an aftermath chapter or two. It almost feels like to me sometimes, personally, that I wish I could read the Horikoshi My Hero Academia manga that is from the perspective of the adults and the teachers and what that type of feel would be, because he would probably write some really sick, dark, and more mature manga. Like, imagine My Hero Academia graduated and became a seinen. It fits the series. Like, it comes across as really, really bright, but beneath the surface, Horikoshi has, like, I'm gonna do some wild stuff with my literature type of soul. And yeah, people, that's kind of where we're at with it right now in terms of the fact that Uraraka is on the battlefield, Toga's on the battlefield, Deku's on the battlefield, everybody's on the battlefield, and the confession finally came through, except once again Toga was denied. Like, you know, she told Uraraka, shit went left. She told Deku, shit went left. And don't forget too, towards the end of the latest chapter 348, that Deku was going to run off because, you know, he got bigger fish to fry, so to speak, and Uraraka was going to go up against Toga. The way I feel, Toga should mop up. What we saw, like against the Liberation Army, for example, she should mop up. We'll see what happens. And I think Sue is there, and there's still a bunch of people on the battlefield, so we don't know who's going to get involved outside of those two. But I'm going to throw my money on probably Uraraka's going to get the W. It's the end, and she needs to whip her ass and give her the lesson of, you don't need to do none of that. And I'd imagine by the end of it all, probably Toga is going to have another personality trait of, like, maybe she's going to switch her focus from wanting to become the person to something else, but it'll still be odd, but maybe more acceptable to society. I don't know. Again, does she want to be accepted by society? No. So it's an interesting concept, and I wish there would have been a little bit more clarity within Toga in terms of who she is, how she's going to live her life, and how it's going to happen. I mean, she's for the most part determined, I'm staying the way I am, but after Deku's rejection, she just fell back into the role of who she is at the end of the day, lost little girl. Yeah, people, My Hero Academia 347, 348, the latest war. Honestly, this war feels like the first war, and the war that we had 2 years ago is the war that should come after, because that felt more serious. This one right now, yeah, it's serious, but like chapters like these, it's like, why is Deku like blushing on the battlefield? You know what I'm saying? But I am extremely curious what you guys think about this whole debacle. For starters, I mean, should I even ask? Toga doesn't have a chance in hell. Deku's never going to pick her, right? But I guess the bigger and more important question is, where does Toga's resolve go now? What does she do once that Uraraka ass whipping comes through and sets in? We know what's going to happen. It's not like Toga's going to defeat Uraraka in the end. How's that going to go down? Oh my god, imagine how dark it would be. Yo, just had a thought right here. My Hero Academia wraps up, the war is over. Deku thinks that he's kissing Uraraka, and it's Toga. Oh! Tell me that wouldn't set up for a second half. That would be crazy. Toga pretending to be Uraraka. Her and Deku have a child. They find out the secret that hasn't been Uraraka this whole time. Deku's mental trauma, having to be a superhero, dealing with the fact that he was duped. Oh my god. Talk about some crazy dramatic fanfic. There we go, baby. Yeah. and your overall thoughts and expectations for where this is going. Right now, I'm not going to shit on it. I'm not going to say, yo, this is terrible or horrible, because there's some elements that do need to be addressed and whatnot before the series ends. But I think the problem we're also having, why it doesn't hit the same like the last war as well, is the fact that we're still very early on. Let's give it a little bit more time, see where things go, and see if hopefully Horikoshi could get back in his really messed up crazy bag, because yeah, wars back to back is starting to show me why most manga don't really do wars back to back. Granted, there was arcs in between, the solo hero arc and a couple other stuff, but it still feels close enough that it's like I can't help but to continue to constantly go back and compare what's happening now to what happened in the earlier stages of the previous war. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and Deku, you probably should have just gone with the crazy vampire girl. She's never gonna leave you alone. I'm calling it right now. Deku x Toga, My Hero Insanity, Domestic Craziness is the sequel, with Deku, unbeknownst to him, finding out his wife that he thought was Uraraka all along is Toga, and Uraraka's been dead and buried under the All Might statue all this time. Yo, the headcanon is crazy right now. Have an awesome day. I know you're like, yo, Fornev, you're never gonna have your way with that. You already know what it is. I know. Have an awesome one.
So just go to